Good evening. This is Brian Steffen here, starting our third chat in Introduction to Multimedia Communication. We are, for some reason, not able to advance my screen there. There we go. So it may look a little weird. I don't know how many of you can actually see a screen tonight, but it appears that my name is Amy Giske, and my name is not Amy Giske. It's a long story as to why it says my name is Amy Giske. As those of you who were with us on Sunday night know, we had a lot of technical problems, and that's because I've been running off a free version of Zoom as opposed to the paid version, but unfortunately the college's contract with Zoom has not been executed yet, so we're taking some time to get that sorted away. Could I just go around who's in the room right now? I know we have Michelle here. Michelle, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and then Emily Sassman, you're with us as well, right?
Correct.
And this is your first visit to the chat room, is that correct?
Yes, that is.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, just because this is your first time in with us?
Yeah. So my name is Emily Sassman. I'm a third-year senior at Simpson. I'm studying business management with human resources and psychology minors. I'm involved in CEO, Pi-Fi. I'm helping Maryland start the new human resources SHRM chapter on campus.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. What else do you want to know?
So you keep busy?
Yes, I do keep busy.
Okay, excellent. Well, welcome to the course. Besides Emily and Michelle, who else is in the room at this time?
Hi, it's Nina.
Hi, Nina. Nina's back for her third visit to the room, so glad you made it. Hopefully this will go a little bit better than it did last time. So,
all right.
Okay. Is there anyone else here that that has not announced?
Brian.
Yeah, who is this?
Hey, it's Christy.
Hey, good evening, Christy. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Great. Anyone else? Okay, so it sounds like we have Emily, Michelle, Nina, and Christy. And you should all, those of you who are on video should just see a PowerPoint slide right now to try to make things a little bit easier. I'm showing less of me and more of, I guess, the content. So this is a good sized chat tonight. A reminder again, when we get done here, I will process the video and try to get it uploaded to Scholar by the end of the night. Those of you who can't actually see, it's just my recommendation that you might want to go back and kind of see these slides that we're going through during the discussion tonight, but that's up to you. I want to go forward and just bring up some upcoming deadlines. I think that's always good for people to know. We are doing module number 2 tonight, and we're talking about living in our media world. As you can see, we're having our chat right now, and that the mini exam for this module will close in 2 days, on Saturday, September 8th at 11:59. So a lot of people have already taken the mini exam, and if you haven't, just make sure you do it by Saturday night. Once you get done with the mini exam, go ahead and work on module number 3, which is mass communication effects. You should complete the materials there by next Tuesday night, just before midnight. We'll have a chat on Wednesday night, and then you should wrap up that mini exam for that module on Thursday the 13th by 11:59, a minute before midnight. And then just kind of looking a little bit further down the way, the next module after that is on the media as a business, and you should complete those materials by the 16th of September. We'll have a chat that Monday night, the 17th at 8 p.m. as is our usual time. And then you should complete the mini exam by Tuesday the 18th at 11:59 p.m. Does anyone have any questions at all about the schedule going forward? This has not changed at all from when I first released it, but I always like to make sure that everybody's straight. Your silence indicates that you're good with it. So is that correct?
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. One other favor I'm going to ask tonight is, because we can't really see each other, when you respond to something, would you do me a favor and start by saying, this is Emily, this is Nina, or whoever the case may be, just so we know who we're talking to. So is that good?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've been reading and thinking and watching some video on living in a media world, the first part of the Ralph Hansen book. And it was actually one of my goals tonight was to have Ralph, who's a friend of mine actually, in on the chat, but Ralph was not available tonight. So we might have him for another chat at some other point in the term, and I'll try to get that set up and announce it. But anyway, before you're done with this module, there's a number of objectives. These were all in the introduction, but you should know the 4 levels of communication that exist in human society. You should as well be able to explain the differences or the difference, shall we say, between mass communication and mass media. You should be able to define 3 contemporary models of mass communication, and also define what we mean by media literacy, because ultimately the goal of this course is to build a sense of media literacy in people. And then also in chapter 1, Ralph Hansen has a bit that he does there about the 7 secrets about the mass media that everyone should know. These are things that you're going to be quizzed over on the mini exam, and you'll ultimately be examined over at the end of the course. So under the theory that you've read that chapter and gone over the PowerPoints, I guess what I want to know right now is if anyone has any questions about any of those, because I'd hate to hang up and have you go off and take a mini exam and not understand any of these ideas. Does anyone have any questions or insights or comments on them?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Everybody else good?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so well, let's go on to the discussion points tonight. The first question that I want to talk about is we watched a video that gave what some of my students usually think is a pretty startling statistic, that the average American spends more than 10 hours a day with the media, which when you think, you know, if you assume that people sleep 8 hours a day, that's 16 waking hours a day. And according to that research presented in the video, you know, close to 11 hours of that time is spent with media. Does that resonate with you? I mean, is that kind of what you do? Is that your life? And I will tell you right away, most everyone thinks that idea is crazy and that they don't spend nearly that much time with media. And then they usually look down at their phone right away, right after they say it. So, you know, how much time do you estimate that you spend with media during a day?
This is Michelle. I probably spend about, I don't know, 6 to 7 hours. I deal with 7 different Facebook pages alone in a day, so I have to keep track of everything that's going on with them. And then I have Twitter and all those other accounts that I deal with every day. So I'm on it. I'm on my phone. My phone is probably plugged in a good 10 hours, 12 hours a day normally.
And would you say, Michelle, that most of your media consumption and involvement is via a mobile device such as your phone?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know. What do you do for a living? Are you a social media manager?
Well, I sell headstones for a living, but then on the sides, I help other people, other businesses out with their Facebook that they don't, like it's the older generation, like my parents' ages and all that. They don't know how, but they want to run a business, so I run their page for them. I
was just going to say, it was really tempting to make a joke about headstones and social media, but I will resist the urge. So how about the rest? Yeah, go ahead.
That one's not so hard to manage because the people that are buying headstones are not looking on Facebook.
That's true. Well, yeah. And the people who need the headstones are probably permanently checked out. So anyway, that's gallows humor, I guess. How about the rest of you? How much time do you spend with media in a day?
This is Nina. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would say about 4 hours a day. I don't look at Facebook or Instagram or any of the media or at work during my 8-hour shift, only maybe at breaks. But it's just kind of a habit, constantly checking it during break time, when you get home, before bed, as soon as you wake up. So I would say about an average of 3 to 4 hours But I do want to say my teenage daughter, who is 15, I would say she's on it like 10, 11 hours a day. So
Okay. Nina, give me an idea when you are with media. What are you watching television? What are you online? What are you doing at those times?
I would mostly say my phone. I rarely watch TV, so phone is mostly um, what I am on. Yeah, I rarely ever watch TV. So
And so when you say you're on your phone, do you watch TV on your phone?
I don't actually. I don't have time to watch
Okay.
TV. I'm either on working on school stuff or just checking Facebook, Instagram, my email. So I really don't. Maybe a couple of times a week, I will turn on the TV and watch it. So
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Who's next?
This is Emily.
Yeah.
So I would say that I'm pretty similar to Nina, probably around 3 hours, which is probably pretty abnormal for my age group because I'm 20 years old. But I would say just, the average, like when you wake up, when you go to bed, I don't know if like scholar counts, but like that's what I do all day with my life is I do like school and work. So yeah,
Right.
I would say that I'm really similar to.
What do you do for work, Emily?
I'm interning at Farm Bureau.
Oh, okay. Are you
headquarters.
interning with Bailey First by any chance?
Not in the same area, but
Oh, okay. Okay. So
I do. She was my freshman roommate. So
we digress. She's one of our majors. I know she's interning at Farm Bureau.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that here's what we hear, Emily. You millennials are just always on your devices. Is that not true?
Yeah.
Or
I mean, maybe for other millennials, but I would say that I could go like 3 days without charging my phone. I have an iPhone, so I'm really never on my phone unless I'm like texting or calling someone.
Wow.
I
Okay.
just really don't like. I've never really been a social media person. I've never.
Yeah.
I have all the accounts, but I've never really posted or used them that often.
It sounds like you have extraordinary discipline. So anyway, hey, Christy, how about you? What's your media experience?
So I tracked it this week because I was intrigued by you saying that going like even in your morning routine and not having media is kind of weird. So on average, I was around 3.5 hours on my cell phone, and that doesn't include text messaging or calling. And then I also listen to podcasts on my way to work and then from work. So there's like another hour, a little bit more than that. So that's up to 4 hours. And then I listen to a lot of music, even at work. So, I'm online at work, but not checking news stories, but I do like to listen to music. So if you're adding that in, then that's more. So I consume way more than what I thought I did, but I still think I consume less than average.
Yeah. Now and thank you. That's one of the things that I frequently find is that when people actually sit down to try to catalog it, they find out that, boy, there's a lot more of this than I thought, and here's why. There's a lot of things that people do with media that they don't consider being with media. So for example, you had to read a chapter of a book to get ready for tonight's chat and to take the mini exam eventually. Now, most people would say, well, that's not media time. I mean, you made me read this book, right? But it's still media. A lot of people say, well, I drive in the car and I turn off the radio. I don't listen to podcasts. I just need some downtime to be by myself and just think. And so I don't listen to anything. And of course, then all the way they're driving home, they're passing advertising messages on billboards, et cetera, et cetera. And it's so much a part of the environment that people don't even notice it. I usually ask students, how many of you woke up to an alarm today? And that's most people. And is it literally just the buzzing of an alarm, or do you have a particular song that you wake up to. And the fact is, a lot of times people have a piece of music that they wake up to. There's a lot of people I hear of who go to sleep with the TV on or with their headphones in. And my point in all this is not to say that's either right or wrong. My point in this is to say, media are really an embedded part of our lives, so much so, and I just want you to think about this for a second. Imagine that we just took it all away from you for a day. And so, we took away your phone and you couldn't listen to podcasts or music. You couldn't watch television. You couldn't read a magazine or a newspaper. We put, covers on all of the billboards so you couldn't see any advertising messages. I mean, my sense is you'd notice it really quickly. So any thoughts about that? Has anyone ever thought about doing a media-free day?
This is Emily.
Yeah.
Okay, so for what, I can't remember what class it was, but for one of my classes last fall, I had to do a media-free day.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and it was very challenging.
How far did you make it?
I did.
Yeah.
But it was just hard because, like everything for school is online.
Right.
So you can't use your computer.
Right.
And then, like you said, books, our media, and obviously they let us use our books because we're in school. But, if we were to take that away, that's just another thing that we wouldn't be able to do. So I think if I didn't have my books, I would have gone completely insane that day.
And that's a good excellent point there. And one of the things that I inevitably run into when I say, hey, has anyone tried a media-free day? A lot of people say, well, I really can't do a media-free day because as part of my job, I've got to be on a computer. I've got to be engaging in group conferencing like what we're doing here. I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And so I say, okay, you got to do what you got to do, but then try to just go without the music or the magazines or your website or Facebook for a day. And most people get kind of twitchy doing that. So anyway, any other thoughts about the amount of time we spend with media? All right. Well, okay. So then I like to ask people, are you happy, now that you've thought about this a little bit, are you happy with the amount of time you spend on media consumption and also the quality? In other words, how does it make your life better? How does it make you a more engaged citizen if this is a civic engagement course? How does it entertain you? Are there things that you think, I wish I did less of this, or I wish I did more of that? Anyone have thoughts about that?
I kind of do. I would say I wish I would spend less time on my phone, like looking at Facebook and Instagram, but rather watch maybe the news more or read some books or read some newspaper, kind of like what I used to do rather than always looking at my phone. So that's one opinion I have.
Yeah. So Nina, why don't you just do that?
I actually did it once, but I actually had to completely delete my Facebook app from my phone, and I actually kind of did it. And then I went back and added it like after 7-8 months. So
Right.
I think it's time for me to do it again.
Right. What else do you all think?
This is Michelle. I don't think I could, honestly. I do too much work on
Right.
social media, mass communication. There's no way I could disengage and not go back on.
Right. Could you like disengage in your personal life? Say, okay, I know I've got to be doing social media for a job, but when I go home at night, I'm going to cook dinner, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to meditate or whatever, and I'm going to turn all this stuff off.
I disengage when I go home. I have a 6-year-old plus 90-some animals on my farm, so I disengage for a couple hours anyways. But when I get back on Facebook, that's a downtime for me. Like I regroup and then I get back on to downtime myself, to drop myself down so I'm not so much in a hurry, I guess. It's
Right.
a weird situation, but that's how I meditate, I guess.
Right. Christy, let me raise a question with you, and just so everybody knows, Christy was in a face-to-face class with me in the summer in West Des Moines, and I still remember and was struck by something you said there, that at the end of the class, one of the things that you took away from the gender race, class, and media course was that it kind of made you want to unplug. And I think you were also talking about it in the context of your daughter. You wish you could protect your daughter from all of this. And I don't want to misrepresent what you said, but do you remember what I'm talking about?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Well, I think it all started, I went to a training class from Amy Blankenship, I think was her name, which is the sister of Sean Acor, and they were doing a conversation about happiness and just media and how we spend our time. And one of the things they really focused on was how much time we spend on our phones.
Yeah.
And then, they went through a whole bunch of different stats, and I think we've gone through a lot of them here in this class too, and then in the last class. But it was just amazing how much time and, just how they set it up where, just like Nina said, the app on your phone, if it's on there, you're more likely to actually log in and get on and just check it out for an hour or two.
Right.
So within that, I started taking the apps off. Just like Nina said, I still have them, but I have to get on actually online, and I have to put my ID in and my password in to make sure, I try to take myself off of that. So I thought I was doing a really good job. And, with Maddie, she's always on the phone. She's always, doing something. And the messages that I see, and, if I'm just passing by the TV, because my husband loves to watch TV, I'm like, oh, these messages are just they're not good. They're not what I would want to have somebody listen to. And then, the people that do that house show, oh shoot, it's not coming to my mind, the really cute couple, Joanna, anyways,
Yeah.
those guys, they don't, or at least they have stated that they don't let their kids watch TV, and they're in the limelight in the media. And I was like, wow, that's such a good idea, because there's so many things that come from that are, I think ours was kids watching other people get raped before they were 13 years of age.
Right.
Crazy. That's absolutely crazy to me. So and you said, I think you hit on the head, you can't get away from it. So it is really becoming literate and understanding what those messages really mean, who they're getting after, and driving that message for yourself. And I think, to your point, that is what I needed to teach Maddie, and I think that every parent needs to teach their kids as they're growing up.
Right, and I think that's a really good point. I mean, I hear a lot of people. I have a brother who lives in Oregon who labored mightily for many, many years to just simply keep his kids off television, which of course, and he did. They didn't have a TV in their house. And so, but then the kids got, mobile phones and iPads and stuff, and they started, consuming content that way. And, my argument is that it's pretty much impossible unless you move to the Yukon territory, in an island in the Arctic Ocean. I think it's pretty much impossible to disengage entirely. And so then it becomes a matter of just having the skills to navigate this ocean, if you will. So if we're going to be spending whatever it is, 5 hours a day, 7 hours, 10 more hours a day with media, we should have some skills and tools to navigate what it all means and retain our sanity, if nothing else. Does anyone else have anything to say about that? I mean, in terms of do you want to spend more time on media, less time? Do you want to have better time with media? Any ideas there?
This is Emily.
Yeah.
So just kind of building off of what I forgot who just talked, but building off what she said, I think that something that's challenging, like nowadays, is media is kind of how people communicate. So that, Facebook is how I see what my friends back home are doing with their lives, and for Pi-Fi, our main source of communication to mass communicate to everyone is through a Facebook page. So I think that is kind of a challenge that we have nowadays, is it's hard to communicate and stay in touch with everyone without media.
Right. Right. Yeah, it pretty much is. You know, back 1,000 years ago when I went to high school and college, we used to get these things at the end of the year called yearbooks. And that would be the way you would keep in touch with your, you know, with your friends who you grew up with or you went to college with. And then you pretty much wouldn't see each other again, other than like at a class reunion or something. And in fact, the yearbook industry is pretty much dead because in the era of Facebook, who needs a yearbook? You know,
Yeah.
you're in touch with people forever, no matter where they. So that's.
I tried to bring the yearbook back at Simpson.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it didn't work very well.
Yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, okay. So let's move on in here. One of the big things in this chapter and in this module is the idea of media literacy. And this was part of what we did in the class with Christy back in the summer. But this particular chapter really hits that idea well. And I think one of the criticisms, I guess, of the culture is that the events of the past 2 or 3 years have shown how media unliterate a lot of Americans are. So if nothing else, we want to make you more media literate, but we have to, I guess, understand what that means. Can anyone help me out with a definition of what media literacy is?
Possibly the ability to read and write.
Okay. What else? Of course, that's, I guess if I could just back up for a second, Nina. The ability to read or write is often considered literacy. Mm-hmm. But is that different than media literacy, or is it just literacy?
I feel like the ability to like analyze like what you're reading or writing.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I think for the media, and I kind of touched on it a little bit ago, but it's understanding what all of it means. Like the people that are speaking or the messages that you're receiving, however it is, what makes that message what it is? Who is it going to? Like, what's the audience? How is the person? How are they operating inside that? It's like the whole presence of all of that. What does it all mean?
Right. You know, I think that these are all good points. You know, if literacy is the ability to read and write, we like to say that we're nearly a 100% literate society, which is, well, kind of true. You know, most people can write their name. Most people can read a sentence. But a lot of people can read and write a lot better than other people, and a very small number of people can't do it at all. And so the first thing I want to say about literacy generally is it's not something that you either have or don't have. It's actually on a continuum. You're either very little literacy or you have a lot of literacy. And we can say the same thing about media literacy or medical literacy or financial literacy. If you want to become a media literate person, the fact is you came into this class with at least a modicum of media literacy. You know, you can make sense of what the message is, you can choose what programs you want to watch, et cetera, et cetera. What we want to really do is build on your skills of media literacy, and what we ultimately want you to be able to do, what we would like any citizen, any civically engaged person to be able to do, is to make sense of messages, where they come from, why they come to you, how they impact you, what the people making the messages, what their goals are in giving you messages, and more. And that's a big part of what this course is about, is, you know, teaching what the media are, how the media make money, why the media present certain messages and don't present other messages. And the hope is not at the end of the term that you're absolutely media literate or so media literate that you're cynical about media, but that you just consume it with an open eye, and so you understand what its strengths and limitations are and how it can add to our lives and how it can harm our lives. So that's a big part of that. So That's the media literate thing. Now, one of the big issues in media literacy right now is fake news. And without getting on, the arguments over Trump, other than to say, of course, the term fake news really wasn't used widely in the culture until 2 years ago when Trump was running his 2016 campaign. The question I have for you here is, how can a better sense of media literacy help us fight the problem of fake news in our culture? What do you think?
If he would,
Oops, I think we lost Nina there. Anyone else?
This is Emily.
Yeah.
I think kind of the obvious one is like you believe if you know how to analyze news and stuff, then you know what to believe and what not to believe, and that could lead to like better educated individuals when they're talking about things.
Okay. That's good. What else?
So I really enjoy this. This is Christy. I really enjoyed that video with the third graders, which I was kind of astonished by, actually, because they were very intelligent. Speaking of these articles, and articles that we were reading weren't, easy reads by any means. But finding those key words and those descriptors and really figuring out what it is that message is really being targeted at.
Right.
I think that's a huge asset to them in their, as they grow up and go through the media world.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. And that's one of the reasons why I show this is that, one of the things that we need to do in terms of media literacy is we really need to start talking about this a long time before an introductory survey level course in college, because a lot of people are never going to take this course. But everybody, in theory, will be in the third grade, and that's a great time to get these kids and get them to start thinking critically about this material. What else?
Hi, this is Nina. I'm sorry, back at. I would mainly say that sometimes people actually want to believe the fake news, so it makes them feel better. But I think it's just a matter of analyzing what you're reading and seeing, and make the best out of it, and not believe everything. Trust like your there's some sites out there that you shouldn't trust, and probably avoid those, or some news. So maybe look out for some sites that are really more trustworthy and better, rather than, reading some fake news. So
one of the things that we didn't define here in our chat is what we mean by fake news. What is fake news? Hello? Can anyone define fake news for us?
Like fabricated news.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you mean by fabricated? Was that Emily?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. What do you mean by fabricated?
Just kind of like twisted from the truth, or maybe even just like completely made up, kind of thing.
Okay. So it is patently false.
Mm-hmm.
Provably false. What did
you say?
Is it provably false news?
I would think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess.
Can anyone give me an example? Have you encountered anything that or at least you were pretty sure was fake news?
This is Michelle. I feel like there's fake news on Facebook all the time. Like, people share things that they don't really know if it's true or not.
Right.
Like those coupons from stores, like you get $150 off. Like, really, people, don't you think that's fake? That sort of thing kind of drives me crazy.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially like the news that are like movie star died, and you're like out there Googling, did he really die? And you don't know if it's true or not, and
Right.
just news.
Right. You know, I'm going to venture a definition of fake news. And actually, at the beginning of the video on fake news, where Judy Woodruff from PBS is talking, she says, and this, I think this is a really critical point, okay? Fake news is disinformation, falsity, or propaganda posing as news that is deliberately spread to try to influence people. There's a lot of things that fake news is not. Fake news is not news that has factual errors. Fake news is not news that you don't like. Fake news is not news that you disagree with. And one of the problems is that fake news is a significant problem. And we know there are people out there who purposefully try to poison our information system by putting out fake news. Now, but let me ask this question. Why would somebody spend all this time knowingly spreading lies? I mean, what's the point of it?
Well, they get the likes. Hi, this is Nina. They get
Yeah.
the likes for it, and then it's being shared, and
Right.
they feel like they've accomplished something with that, you know.
But what is it they accomplish by? I mean, I like likes as anyone else, and I like it when people share stuff I put on Facebook. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I would be horrified if I said something false or spread something false that other people then spread as false as well. So what's the point of fake news? Does anyone have any guess on this?
This is Michelle. I don't think the people that share and like it really read it. I think it's just the like of that person that you like posted something, and they don't really read the whole article. They just read the headlines, because the headlines I feel like the headlines are more fake than anything else. Until you get depth into the story, you can't tell if it's fake or not.
Well, the headlines are often written in such a way as to provoke outrage or gin up outrage.
Yeah.
And you're right, Michelle, sometimes you read a headline and then you more or less reflexively go, oh my God, I can't believe what the bastards are doing now, share, and you don't even bother to read the story and find out that the story doesn't actually match, the headline. I want to, and a little bit later in the course, we're going to be watching a PBS documentary titled Putin's Revenge. And if we know anything at all about the election campaign, one of the suggestions is that Russian disinformation professionals, if you will, played a huge role in spreading fake news during the campaign. And the reason for that, to give you a little bit of a preview, is not because they necessarily wanted to lie, but they simply wanted to, and this is a really important point, create a climate of mistrust and distrust. In other words, to exploit the alienation that a lot of Americans feel with American democracy. And, Vladimir Putin, I don't think he ever really seriously thought that he could help get Donald Trump elected president. And in any event, that probably wasn't his goal anyway. What Vladimir Putin wanted to do was make Americans just disbelieve everything and say, in the end, I don't know anything I can trust or believe. I don't know anyone I can trust or believe. And maybe the best thing for me to do is just turn it all off. And if this is a course in civic engagement, that's like the horror story that basically someone can succeed in so poisoning our channels of information that they actually destroy our ability to trust each other or to trust anything we read, see, hear, or think. And that's the big problem with fake news. Now, with a sense of media literacy, we can say, okay, that is fake news. I don't like this piece of information, perhaps, but that doesn't meet the definition of fake news. Whereas there are a lot of people in the culture who want to completely exploit the idea of fake news and tell you everything you read and see is fake. And there's no one you can trust. And if you can't trust anyone, we're kind of sunk as a culture, I think. So any thoughts about that? Or did I stick a fork in that? Maybe I stuck a fork in that. This is our last question for the night. So we're rounding third and heading for home. And the question is this, for those who can't see it. How can we best determine which sources of media that we can trust and which to simply ignore as fake or propaganda or what have you? I mean, maybe this question is, who do you trust and why do you trust them? You know, maybe you would recommend them to other people. What do you think there?
Hi, this is Nina.
This is Michelle. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Nina.
I would say I really trust my local news, like KCCI or Channel 13. I kind of trust them rather than like some other news. So
Why is that? Because that in fact, and that's a good point, Nina. We know from the research that people tend to put a lot more trust in local news than they do in national news or news they read online. So what is so trustworthy about KCCI or WHO or WOI?
just because they're kind of local and there's not that many people involved, and they've worked there for many years, and they're gonna bring the reputation to making sure that they deliver good media to the local people. And I feel like they wouldn't lie to us. Somehow I feel like they are trustworthy.
I think, you know, and I think a lot of the research backs that up, that essentially you tend to think about those people as people from your community, people like you, people who have a stake in this community. Whereas if you watch CNN or Fox, they don't care about Des Moines at all. They care about national advertising.
Yeah.
And they'll say whatever it takes to drive out eyeballs and, in a lot of instances, outrage. So yes, I think that's a good point. So you tend to trust local news over non-local news. Who else? Michelle, did you have something to say?
I was going to say local news better than, but sometimes KCCI can, on Facebook anyways, KCCI can throw out some weird stuff that doesn't even pertain to like the state of Iowa. I'm like, why are you broadcasting that? So I guess if I see it on TV, it's a little bit more, but I'm never home or in the house when the local news is starting or ending or whatever. So my news comes from Facebook. I would say US Magazine, I think I have that on my app. I read a lot of stuff on there and I feel like it's trustworthy.
Okay.
So.
Who else? Who else has?
This is Emily.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of think that every news source kind of has like a personal agenda with, and not to make this political, but with like politics. So, you know, like Fox News is more of a conservative site, whereas like, I don't know, whatever the more liberal sites are. Yep. So I would say that something that I do when I like see something that intrigues me is I go look at the other side and see if they're reporting on it, you know, and maybe just like verify that, double check with like two sources. And if two sources are like reporting it, it's probably something that's more legit than not.
Emily, you should be teaching this class, because that's one of the things I was going to be telling you, is that, you know, one of the things that seriously a media literate person does is, you know, they put trust in news sources, but they don't trust them to be perfect. So, you know, one news source might have one version of a story and another news source might have another version of a story. And if we are well informed, we learn to say, okay, I can learn things by consulting sites that, you know, are ideologically different than what I think. Now, in fact, a lot of research will tell you that most people are driven to news sites by their perception of the site's politics. And so the question, you know, a lot of times I ask the question to my students, why is Fox News a conservative site and or conservative network, and why is MSNBC, for example, a liberal network? And they always have a very difficult time answering that question. I said, well, the answer is actually quite simple. The answer is because that's what their market research tells them their audience wants, and that's how they generate eyeballs, and that's how they sell advertising. If someday in the future Fox News figures out that there's been a liberal takeover of the American culture, I guarantee you Fox will figure out a way to evolve into a liberal network, which would be difficult for it to do, but it would try to figure out a way to do it, because ultimately Fox is not here to win elections for anyone. Fox is here to make money for its owner, News Corporation. And so that's one of the things that we need to understand about that. Any other thoughts about media trust? Does anyone say, I just have a real tough time trusting national media at all, because, as Emily says, they have an agenda or for some other reason?
Yeah, I think what Emily said,
Michelle.
I mean, that rings home for me anyways. And then even I'll pick on my husband real quick because he's sitting right there, but
Right.
he'll turn on CNN every morning, and
Right.
that's what he watches every single morning. And I'm like, why don't you switch it to another station just to figure out what they're saying or what's going on? So
Right.
yeah, you get stuck in that trap because it's what you want to hear. You start believing it, the people you get comfortable with, and unless you broaden your horizons and really step out,
Right.
you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And these are all good points. I think one key point to take away from this is, regardless of your feelings on the current president of the United States, a media literate person would understand that fake news is not simply news that's critical of points of view or politicians or ideas that you favor. Fake news, in fact, is a fairly small, intentionally devised universe of information, which is designed to anger people or outrage them or mislead them. And we may never know, we probably will never know, whether or not fake news in 2016 had a role in the outcome of our election. There will be lots of speculation on it. But the fact is that a media literate population would simply say, that's fake news, I can ignore it, and we don't have to do anything about it. I mean, you just let it go away because no one believes it after a while. So, all right. Hey, does anyone have any questions either about content in this module or about what we should be doing over the next several days?
Hey, I don't have a question over that, but I did just want to call out. So when I logged in tonight,
I'm sorry, this is Christy, right?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's all right.
Very poor at that.
Yeah.
When I logged in tonight, I went to the module 2 and used that link
Oh,
to log into my computer instead of the email.
That's
and
right.
I could see everybody that was on that, but
Yeah.
I couldn't see your presentation. And there was about 5 or 6 other individuals that tried to get on, but they couldn't speak because I called in on my phone.
Right. Right.
And then I switched over halfway through. So I don't know. They made
and I'll have to put out a note on that. This is part of our technical issue that for those, and I think you were there Sunday night, Christy, where it was kind of pretty much a botch job. So unfortunately, the college has not been able to give me a paid account yet, so I am borrowing somebody else's paid account. But that meant we had to relocate the chat to another site. And so what I need to do is update those links for the future chats, and I'll put it out to people tonight, and I apologize. One of the things to prevent that in the future, by the way, if you're here tonight, is sometime either the day before or the day of the chat, I will put out something on our news announcements that includes the link that we're going to. I'm going to fix that in the future ones, but this is literally, I was told to do this just at like 2 o'clock this afternoon. So I apologize for that. The college apologizes for it. This is a new technology for us, and we're slowly getting our feet wet and using it. But I think overall, this one went a lot better tonight in terms of technical ability. And I thought the conversation was good too. So.
Great.
Any other questions? All right. If you haven't taken the mini exam for this module yet, remember to get it done by tomorrow. Then move on to module 3. I will chat with you all next time. Remember, our next chat is scheduled for next Wednesday night, so it's 6 days from now, and we'll get out more information on that. Thanks a lot. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See ya.